As the committee investigating the coup attempt on January 6th continues to reveal new evidence of a coordinated criminal plot by Donald Trump to overthrow American democracy, Trump is responding by suggesting he might pardon the January 6th defendants if he gets reelected in 2024. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. The reason these hearings are important is very simple. This wasn't a one-off, and Trump hasn't forgotten. If he gets the chance, he's going to finish the job. And this is one of the rare times you can say that about Trump. He's not exactly a closer. I'm not sure he ever technically finished any of his buildings. I'm pretty sure that instead of putting fire alarms in his condos, he just painted them on. But Trump has made it abundantly clear that he hasn't forgotten about the 2020 election, and he hasn't let it go. If he gets the chance, he will absolutely finish the coup he started on January 6th, as he made clear recently when he dangled the possibility of pardoning defendants in January 6th cases.
Even while January 6th defendants are having their lives totally destroyed and being treated worse than terrorists and murderers, despite most being charged with parading through the Capitol, most people should not be treated the way they're being treated. And if I become president someday, if I decide to do it, I will be looking at them very, very seriously for pardons, very, very seriously. They've been treated very unfairly. Should I decide to do that?
Trump is so bad at playing coy. If he had a fan, he'd cut a hole in it so you could still see his mouth. He says if I decide to do it, like he's threatening to streak across the quad after a frat party. I dare you guys to join me if I decide to do it. Donald, you're already naked. So be it. Second, when you say they were charged with parading like that, you make it sound like they were on floats wearing sashes that said Happy Insurrection Day. Yes, there is such a thing as illegal parading or demonstrating in the Capitol, and many people have been charged with that, but that's very different from parading in the sense Trump seems to be using it. I mean, in New York, we have parades like every day. It's completely different. Every time I get in a cab and say I want to go to Midtown, the cabbie says something like, well, it's Luxembourgian Independence Day, so I got to take you through Secaucus. See, other day, traffic was stopped along Fifth Avenue because there was a parade for the National Association of Trombone Players' annual Trombone Appreciation Day. It was so annoying. Every time someone dropped their ice cream cone, you'd hear this. In fact, contrary to Trump, several members of right-wing groups and militias have been charged with seditious conspiracy. In fact, we learned from the committee last week that rioters got within 40 feet of Vice President Mike Pence and were absolutely willing to do physical harm to Pence if they had the chance.
Vice President Pence and his team ultimately were led to a secure location where they stayed for the next 4.5 hours, barely missing rioters a few feet away.
Approximately 40 feet. That's all there was. 40 feet between the vice president and the mob. Make no mistake about the fact that the vice president's life was in danger. A recent court filing by the Department of Justice explains that a confidential informant from the Proud Boys told the FBI that the Proud Boys would have killed Mike Pence if given a chance.
One thing we're learning from this investigation is that the coup was much more sinister than that pic of the dude jacking the podium. If the rioters had the chance, they would have done the same thing to Mike Pence. The guy who took the podium probably thought he had Pence. You were supposed to grab the VP. This has the same charisma. I feel like, as a nation, we haven't all fully appreciated the degree to which the president basically almost got the vice president killed. That feels like something you only read about in history books, like the Burr-Hamilton duel. Of course, if Trump and Pence ever dueled, only one thing would be certain. Trump ain't doing the full 10 paces. Now, before we do this, Mr. President, I would like your assurances that we are agreed on the rules. Absolutely, Mike, 10 paces, maybe 8, but at least 5. With that said, Mike, I have big paces, so 3 of mine are probably worth 10 of your tiny paces. Everyone seems to have moved on from the threat to Pence, and that includes Pence himself, who also seems to not be holding a grudge against Trump for, almost getting him killed. Just a week ago, Pence bragged about his record in the Trump administration, tweeting for years politicians promised to secure the border. Under the Trump-Pence administration, we delivered. Pence is like that clueless guy you dated in college who could not understand that you were dumping him. We should see other people. I see other people all the time. Look, there's one. All right, pick you up at 8. No, dude, we're over the moon about this perfect relationship. I'm breaking up with you. I've been told I break people up with my knock-knock jokes. So it's pretty clear that Trump was, at the very least, indifferent as to whether he had put his own vice president in physical danger. And it's also clear Trump sicked the mob on Pence for not following through on something even Trump himself knew was illegal. Last week, the committee provided new evidence that Trump and his pro-coup lawyer, John Eastman, who laid out a detailed plan for how Pence could overturn the election, knew the plan was against the law when they tried to get Pence to do it. In fact, toward the end of Trump's presidency, Eastman even sent an email to Rudy Giuliani casually suggesting that maybe Trump should pardon Eastman.
Dr. Eastman emailed Rudy Giuliani and requested that he be included on a list of potential recipients of a presidential pardon. Dr. Eastman's email stated, quote, "I've decided that I should be on the pardon list, if that is still in the works."
He's like a guy walking up to the bouncer at a club by himself trying to get in. I've decided I should be on the VIP list. Move out of the way. I'm going to squeeze your head like a grape right this way, ladies. Also, I love how he phrased it like he had just sort of casually thought about a pardon, like it was a fun idea, and not that it was starting to dawn on him that he was breaking the law and might go to prison. He's like a guy on the phone with his insurance agent while you can hear the sound of fire trucks in the background. Yeah, hey, a few months ago you mentioned fire insurance, and I was thinking about it during our fireworks-themed gender reveal party, and maybe I should get that. And I guess it makes sense that if you're looking for the pardon list, you'd email Rudy Giuliani. He's definitely the guy who came up with the idea of a pardon list. The pardon list was probably just every possible version of his own name written on the back of a steakhouse napkin. Because even Rudy, who we tend to think of as a delusional, bumbling doofus due to, And yeah, I know we use that picture a lot, but here's the deal. You keep laughing at it, we're going to keep using it. Even Rudy apparently knew that the whole scheme was illegal. That's according to a deposition broadcast by the committee last week from former Trump White House lawyer Eric Hirschman. Hirschman said he had told Eastman that his plan was insane and that later Rudy had agreed with Hirschman that the plan was illegal.
The president's own lead outside counsel, Rudy Giuliani, also seemed to concede that the vice president did not have the authority to decide the outcome of the election or send it back to the states. Here's what White House attorney Eric Hirschman said about his call with Mayor Giuliani on the morning of the 6th.
The morning of January 6th, I think he called me out of the blue, right? And I was like getting dressed. And we had an intellectual discussion about Eastman's, I don't know if it's Eastman's theory per se, but the VP's role. And he was asking me my view and analysis and then the practical implications of it. And when we finished, he said, like, I believe that, you're probably right.
First of all, I doubt it was truly an intellectual discussion if Rudy was involved. Saying you had an intellectual discussion with Rudy Giuliani is like saying you played chess with a horse. Second, it's incredible to me that even Rudy knew it was a crazy and bad idea. Rudy. That's how you know your plan is truly insane. This is a guy who, while under multiple investigations, thought it was a good idea to do a video using an Abraham Lincoln filter. That same guy looked at John Eastman's plan and said, I don't know. The January 6th hearings have revealed a ton of incriminating new details so far, including the fact that the attempted coup was a lot more sinister and a lot more sophisticated than previously known. Even Trump and his cronies knew it was illegal. They clearly had criminal intent. Now, Trump is basically admitting that he'll do it again if he gets the opportunity. He's confessing in advance. It's like he's writing his own version of that book by O.J. called If I Did It, except Trump's is called
If I Decide to Do It.
There's been a closer look. God's Love You Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, get vaccinated. We love you.